about buying the property. And you know, some people used to say, "Oh, come on, you think these people would get together to buy the property?" And so we had our money in escrow. And one day the landlord called up and said, "What would it take for us to get you out of there?" And so Rick said, "You know, have Joe all the money that's in escrow." He said, "Okay." And I said, "Moving expenses too." He said, "Okay." So, you know, Rick promised the kids we'd have a house before anybody became teenagers. So a week before my son's 13th, no, 2 months before my oldest son's 13th birthday, we moved in. So, you know, we wrote a newsletter and we kept telling everybody all the things that we did so they would follow along. And they used to, you know, they used to use the newsletter even though they didn't come to the meetings. And now they're buying the property. Yeah. So, and like the wall is really kind of, well, as you can, it's actually our lives in film. You know, we take a lot of pictures. And actually, we have 3 children here and there are 5 older children. And both of us have been before we met and since we met. So our children get involved too. And then that's when we were holding vigil across from the White House in opposition to signing the welfare reform bill. And Dick Gregory heard about it and came down. He said, "Well, somebody's doing something." And that's founding the Black Radical Congress. And then Rick's father was a semi-professional football player, played with the Brown Bombers. Baby. Virginia. And then my father's a first-generation American. My grandparents were Jamaican immigrants, and that's my grandparents. And my father's the one second from the left in the top row. He was a civil court judge when he died. My mother, well, it's an old teacher, obviously. She's a retired public school teacher now in New York. And then this is Rick's parents when they got married. His father is the tall one. And then his father was also a professional opera singer. He used to sing Voices by the Sea. And so that's his grandmother, his maternal grandmother, and his father in the middle, and the rest of the company. And then this is his grandmother when she was a child. She had polio, and that's his great grandparents. And this is my dad and I when I was obviously somewhat young. And that's Rick's father, and that's me and River now. Years ago, ran into him in a conference. That's Rick in Tenement Square. In front of the portrait of Mao. It changed a little when I went there 20 years later because you couldn't actually get that close to the face. And that's his mother over there, and that's my parents' wedding picture. So, I mean, it was interesting. It turned out that we both had lots of records, you know, going way back. And in the other room, I mean, there's a picture of my great-great-grandmother. But, you know, so all of this. And then there's more of this is like our time in Washington and our lives together. That's with, that's his mother up there. That sketch up there was done by a homeless artist in New York in the Village. We were up there with a bunch of our kids. That's when Langston got the cast taken off of his arm down on the mall by the merry-go-round. Toussaint graduated from high school. It's about 2 older grandchildren. And then that's Rick and Kwame Ture on his last tour through the country when he was raising money to pay for his cancer treatments. And that's with Rick and Langston with Tony Hall.
Yeah, I see it.
I used to work for a place that did work around food and hunger programs, a degree from Maryville College in Georgia back in 1871. And all my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my mother, my aunts, my niece, they've all been school teachers. So I broke the mold. What can I say? I find myself teaching anyway.
Yeah, there's an escape hatch around the back, so.
All right.
Every Sunday before the announcement comes to let folks know what's going on, so it won't be a surprise, and we can garner some support for our candidate.
Sure.
And we're going broad and wide with this thing, and we think we can win. We really do. I mean, not only that Michelle is much smarter than any of the guys that's running against her, But she's ran a city agency with some success. She's done a lot of stuff like that.
And you're doing the Universal Healthcare
That's right.
Conference, organized.
That's right. That's right. And we're organizing this big conference.
Obviously,
Here's a toast to Michelle's successful campaign.
grab one of these.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
Alright.
Cheers.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Good luck. I don't drink. Here. Huh? You asked that?
Down with Clemons. Up with Tingling-Clemons.
know what?
A ball in this city that is interested in selling it off to the highest bidder, and it's absolutely crucial that the people stand up and take a stance against it, because what has happened is that people have become demoralized and really feel that nothing that we do matters, and what difference does it make who we vote for, and you can't trust people in politics. And I know that that's not true just in D.C. because I talk to people from around the country. And years ago, we were part of a formation called Up and Out of Poverty Now, with the National Welfare Rights,
And also we have some more
the National Anti-Hunger Coalition. And we left that convention with a determination that we were going to fight back on 3 fronts: in the State House, in the courthouse, and on the streets. So it's critical that we organize the people, that we take poor people's issues as a platform and as a part of our campaign. That we
Kind of
fight,
universal rights.
right, that we use our work to help support what's going on in the courts, and that we get involved in running for office, because it's not good enough to say that good people have to get out there, and then we say like, well, I don't have the time, I don't feel like it, it's too risky. And, I didn't start off here because I told Rick, I said, but they're so ugly, the people who run. It's like they're looking for a target, and then you come out and you say, here I am. But it's fruity chicken. But it's like, it's a situation where you come back and but they're coming after you no matter what. So, and I think that, one of the things that really prompted me to get out here was that I was running a city agency, as Rick said, and I was actually, and I was doing a good job. And one of the biggest problems I found is that the people who were passing legislation didn't have a clue how the city worked.
You can say that again.
And so, as I tried to take that information, as I tried to take the information to them and get their support, the only thing they would do is, everybody took the attitude, well, you have to play the game. Well, I didn't take this job to play a game. I took this job to make sure that the kids in this city got as much resources as were available to feed them so that they could participate and they could learn and they could move to the next stage. And the people who came over me only cared about how they could get their hands on the money.
Or look good.
Well, no, they want to get their hands on the money and look good while doing it. I just didn't want anybody criticizing that. And so when I criticized it, first they started threatening my job, and then when I and they wouldn't deal with it when I went to them individually, I took it to the public. And then, as a whistleblower, I got fired. So when they fired me, they made a big mistake.
Stand up.
Well, they made a big mistake too, because for the first time in my life, I have time on my hands. Lucky, I have a family that's really supportive and that's, really involved. And they were the ones who said, we think you should run for office. I said, me? I said the same thing I said when I said, well, I don't think I could take this job. What do I know about running an agency? They said, well, the programs, people, and who else cares more about making sure that the job is done right?
And you get to talk to people
Okay, all right, I guess I'll try it, and I tried that, and then, I took the stab at trying to run for office, and, and I found the same thing. All these guys who were sitting up there, they can talk pretty in forums and press conferences to people who they want to put money in their campaign, but they don't have a clue how the city works. They don't have a clue how the agencies work.
They don't have a strategy.
They don't have a strategy to make it work. They don't give a damn. That is it.
You shouldn't have a politician who doesn't care. Maybe you don't care the way they do, but you shouldn't have a politician who doesn't care.
And these guys are really bad.
If it was just a matter of disagreeing over strategy and tactics, that's one thing. But at the core, they don't give a damn.
I think that the pendulum as far as it can, it maybe might be a few more inches to the right. Now it's beginning to swing back.
Come back.
And so we we have to be ready. We have to be ready to move when it comes down. And we can really, and I think we can do it. It's more of us than it is of them.
Yeah, we gotta have faith.
I don't know.
The one thing that we've been pushing around here is to work on campaign finance reform. Because that's how these guys are buying the elections. And we really, I mean, that's something that we really must do. I mean, that's how they do it. They buy. That's how you get Schwarzenegger, you know, running for governor and winning the governorship in California. That's insane. That's close to insanity.
Well, they voted for Ronald Reagan. They had Ronald Reagan before.
I know. They had a good look.
Can I tell you?
A long time.
I would just say, you know, Gray Davis engaged in a kind of politics that meant that he didn't have, you know, he lost any progressive base whatsoever. I mean, he
made some horrendous contracts with prison guards.
That's it. I mean, he would support prison guards over school teachers. He would give labor what they wanted, but only if he received a check from them first for his re-election efforts. I mean, it really was a gross thing, and I voted against the recall, but I want you to know I felt really badly voting to keep that man in office. And not because he was a Democrat, but because he was really just engaged in such a terrible thing. Now, in the recall itself, I voted for Peter Camejo, who I think demonstrated, you know, command of the issues during the debates and this and that. But Schwarzenegger, you know, he was, you know, he presented a critique of the Democratic governor that he then went into office and articulated everything exactly the same. And if the Democrats were strong, they would have moved to recall Schwarzenegger right away and said, hey man, you're a total phony. But they didn't, because they were already all angling for who was going to run for governor next. They didn't want to restore the governorship to Gray Davis. So